I wanted Final Fantasy XIV Summoner class to make me feel like Bahamut, to sail through the high rises of Ishgard and Limsa, brutally awkwarding hordes of enemies and worm-waving familiar animal-themed icons to death. Final Fantasy's first foray into the world of pet summons handily delivers on all of that. Aside from a couple odd rotation issues, Square Enix has delivered a summoner class that both surprised and delighted me, coupled with gameplay that made me feel like Bahamut nearly every step of the way. This dastardly Dragon God's moveset doesn't consistently deliver the thrilling moments of its many appearances, but the foundation laid here is undoubtedly a spectacular time. What's that? I was just informed this intro is wholly inaccurate. That's what I get for copying a Spider-Man review. Apparently, you can't always play as Bahamut in this. You also have to play a little peasant girl with pink hair. Well, this is awkward. Summoner is a complicated class, known for a 2-minute rotation between trances at higher levels. The summoner's unique ability allows her to summon tiny versions of icons, be that Ifrit, Garuda, or even Titan. Each of the different icon pets has its own strengths and weaknesses. Garuda is mainly used for her contagion dot or damage over time, as well as your go-to pet for AoE attacks. Ifrit is your single target damage dealer. Make sure to summon Ifrit before any boss encounter. Titan is your tank, but we won't talk much about him. He's useless for the most part and used very rarely. It's important to point out you will not have access to the stronger icons Demi Bahamut and Demi Phoenix until level 70, so get used to playing as a pink-haired peasant who wields a book for quite some time. As always, this guide has the updated potency numbers and class info of the latest patch, which is 5.11. To unlock the Summoner, you will need to have leveled an Arcanist all the way to level 30. Grueling, I know. Once at that level, you will now have the ability to pick up both the Scholar and Summoner jobs. I recommend you grab both of them. This is because unique to this class is that it shares levels with Scholar and vice versa, meaning that you can get healer queues and level Summoner all the way to level 80 without even touching it. Starting in the lowest levels, you will have access to only a few abilities. Rune is your main single target damage dealer, and it costs 200 MP for an attack potency of 180. Right now, this is a cast ability that will take about 2.5 seconds to cast. Later abilities will make this instacast, but we'll talk about them in a little while. Your main dot is Bio. It is instacast, and it will last for 30 seconds, dealing 20 potency, and it costs 400 MP. The Summoner also has access to a 400 cure potency heal called Physique, but you'll rarely ever use that. We have 3 summons at level 30 when we pick up the class, but in low-level dungeons, you might only have access to 1 or 2 of them. Just know, Summon 1 is for Garuda, a caster pet, perfect for fighting lots of enemies. Summon 2 is your support pet, and in this case, Titan, but as I mentioned earlier, I never use Titan. That leaves Summon 3, or our attacker pet, Ifrit, at level 30. Since Summoner is a very damage over time or dot-focused class, we also have Miasma available to us very early at level 6. Miasma is our second dot, and it does the same damage potency as Bio. Since it does unaspected damage though, rather than physical, we can now combine it with Bio. It, like Bio, lasts for 30 seconds, but it costs 500 MP. You always want to make sure that you use both your dots and have them up as much as possible. The Summoner has only a few protection skills. At level 8, Roll Action Addle is one of them. Available every 90 seconds, this will lower a target's intelligence and mind by 10%, reducing some of the damage an enemy dishes out to your party members. EG Assault is the action we will use to tell our currently summoned pet to execute their first attack. This changes depending on which pet we have summoned. Garuda uses Aerial Assault, Ifrit uses Crimson Cyclone, and Titan uses Earth and Armor. The next skill you'll have access to is pretty important, and like any healer class, I suggest you create a swift cast macro for it. Near the end of the video, I'll show you how to set that up, but for now, Resurrection can bring party members back to life. You gain access to this at level 12. It's expensive to cast though at 2400 MP. It takes 7.83 seconds, and as with any raise skill, dead party members will only come back in a weakened state. The main reason I've stressed the importance of keeping both Bio and Miasma up is that at level 18 you gain the skill Fester, a necessary skill even at level 80, which we'll talk about in greater detail when I talk about rotations later in the video. Fester does only 100 unaspected potency, but under the effect of Bio or Miasma, this increases to 200 potency. If a target is afflicted by you with both of those statuses, then Fester's potency actually increases to 300. This requires that you use one stack of our next skill though. At level 18, you can use Energy Drain to gain 100 potency damage and grant 2 stacks of Aether Flow. Later level abilities will need Aether Flow, so more on that in just a little bit. Energy Drain can be used every 30 seconds. Since some of your spells use quite a bit of mana, it is always good to ensure that you abuse Lucid Dreaming for mana recovery. As with any other class that has access to it, the ability restores MP at a potency of 50 and lasts 21 seconds. It can be cast every 60 seconds and it's instacast. Level 26 has Bio evolved to Bio 2, gaining 10 more to potency. It's instacast and it costs 600 MP. Another instacast ability that's gained at level 30, called Bane, allows you to then spread the Bio and Miasma effects that you've applied to a target to all other enemies. Note, the effects will last for their full duration, but at 60% reduced potency. Level 35 unlocks our AoE energy drain ability called Energy Siphon. This will do 40 potency to all enemies nearby, and as with Energy Drain, it grants 2 stacks of Aether Flow. Note, Energy Siphon shares its recast timer with Energy Drain. At level 38, Rune 2 only does 160 potency. However, due to being instacast, it's still an upgrade to our Rune spell. We gain EG Assault 2 at level 40. This skill orders Garuda to use her Slipstream attack, Ifrit to use his Flaming Crush, or Titan to use Mountain Buster. Our EG Assault skill has 2 charges, so even at high levels we'll use EG Assault followed by EG Assault 2 in our rotation. More on that later. We also pick up Outburst at level 40 as well. This does 90 potency to all enemies. It costs 400 MP and it does unaspected damage. Every class in Final Fantasy XIV has access to a role action or ability that nullifies most knockback and draw-in effects. Summoner, like every caster, has Surecast, and you can use this ability every 120 seconds. It only lasts 6 seconds though, so be sure to use it strategically. Each of your EG icons has an ultimate attack, and at level 50 you gain access to it through the skill Enkindle. When you use this ability, Garuda will cast Aerial Blast, dealing wind damage of 350 potency to all enemies. This is a very strong AoE attack. Ifrit will execute Inferno, dealing 300 potency fire damage to all enemies in a cone before him. Additionally though, Inferno also does a 20 potency dot over 15 seconds. Titan's ultimate, which I've already said I hardly ever use, is called Earth and Fury. This deals earth damage with a potency of 300 to all nearby enemies and creates a dot aura around you that deals 20 potency damage to enemies that enter it. Level 52 has us pick up Pain Flare, a strong AoE ability that does 130 potency to a target and all enemies near it, and it costs one of our Aether Flow gauge stacks. Rune 3, one of your bread and butter spells as a summoner, is gained at level 54. It costs 200 MP and is an evolution of Rune, dealing unaspected single target damage of 200 potency. Just like Rune 3, the level 56 ability Try Disaster is used very often, even at level 80. It's an important skill for all rotations. Tri-Disaster deals unaspect damage of 300 potency and also afflicts the target with both Bio 3 and Miasma 3, dots lasting 30 seconds. The individual skills for these you will learn 10 levels later. At level 58, we finally have access to Dreadworm Trance. This ability reduces all spell casting by 2.5 seconds, making Rune 3 and other skills instacast. It also resets Tri-Disaster and grants 2 stacks of Dreadworm Aether. You will need this Aether for our next skill. Death Flare is essentially an Akmorn attack with reduced damage. Still powerful, Death Flare deals 400 potency damage to your first target, and then 50% less to all the other enemies around it. Upon using this strong ability, Dreadworm Trance will fade, as will its effects on cast time. That's why it's best to use Death Flare right at the tail end of Dreadworm Trance. When you use EG Assault at level 62 or EG Assault 2 at level 74, each of those abilities will grant 4 stacks of Further Ruin. Further Ruin is used to cast Rune 4, which deals unaspect damage of 300 potency at level 62. Further Ruin is important in maximizing your DPS during your rotations. A party-wide support ability unlocked at level 64, Aether Pact orders your pet to execute Devotion, increasing all damage dealt by party members in a 15 yalm radius by 5%, and it lasts for 15 seconds. This is an instacast ability, and it can be used every 180 seconds. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, at level 66, we get access to both Bio 3 and Miasma 3. Bio 3, being the final evolution, increases Bio dot potency to 50, and it lasts 30 seconds. Miasma's final evolution also does 50 potency, but unaspected, and it also lasts 30 seconds. Note that Tri-Disaster will always afflict the target with both of these statuses as well. Finally, at level 70, we can summon Demi Bahamut and wreak havoc on our enemies with his room-clearing abilities. While Bahamut is out, any spell that we use against a target will be followed by Bahamut using Worm Wave against them. This deals unaspected damage of 150 potency. Like other EG attacks, Demi Bahamut's many abilities cannot be assigned to a hotbar. Note, you must always have a pet out in order to summon Bahamut. You also cannot use Summon Bahamut while under the effects of Dreadworm Trance. Changed in 5.1, upon summoning Demi Bahamut, Worm Wave can be executed immediately. The other ability that we can use every 10 seconds is Enkindle Bahamut. This orders Demi Bahamut to execute his most powerful and iconic attack, Akmorn. Dealing 650 direct damage to the first enemy you target, and 50% less to all remaining enemies, this attack does the same amount of damage as the ultimate of your other legendary summon, which we will get at level 80. Firebird Trance is the second trance that you can use after the timer resets and Demi Bahamut has left the battlefield. In 5.1, both trances had their recast timers change from 60 seconds to 55 seconds. Just like Dreadworm Trance, Firebird Trance reduces spellcasting time by 2.5 seconds, and it lasts 20 seconds. It also resets Tri-Disaster, but uniquely, it changes Rune 3 into Fountain of Fire. This deals 250 potency fire damage, and it also grants Hellish Conduit for 10 seconds, which allows you to execute Brand of Purgatory, which is a transformed outburst. This AoE spell deals 350 potency to the first targeted enemy and 50% less to all other enemies. Due to this, Fountain of Fire and Brand of Purgatory should always be used in tandem. You gain no other skills until level 80, when you can summon the Phoenix icon and unleash the most powerful spells in the summoner's arsenal. While Demi Phoenix is summoned, it will execute various spells of its own at random. The first of these is Everlasting Flight, a group-wide heal with a potency of 100 that lasts 21 seconds. The second attack Demi Phoenix has is Scarlet Flame. This deals fire damage with a potency of 150 to a single target. As with Demi Bahamut, Demi Phoenix has an ultimate attack called Revelation, and you can use it every 10 seconds with the Enkindle Phoenix ability. Revelation, like Akmorn, deals 650 potency damage, but fire-based this time, to a single target, and additionally deals 50% less to all remaining enemies. Now, with all of our skills out of the way, I know there's just a lot. We'll move on to our rotations, starting with those at level 50. Thankfully, the Summoner is pretty easy to understand at this level. You want to ensure that your Bio and Miasma spells are up as much as possible. Then use Rune 2 to allow you to weave your multiple OGCDs or off-global cooldowns. EG Assault 1, 2, Enkindle, Energy Drain, Fester, and Bane. Then switch back to Rune 1 and keep DPSing until you have all your abilities again. Since most of these are on 30-second cooldowns, it's all about a priority setup with Summoner, really. At level 60, this doesn't change. First, you want to keep your dots up. Then use Rune 2, because it's instacast, to weave OGCDs, Fester, Bane, EG Assaults, and Kindle. And since at level 54, Rune now evolved to Rune 3, we want to spam that over and over once we have ensured everything else is complete. When we can use Dreadworm Trance again, we'll use that and try Disaster while spamming Rune 3 until about 2 or 3 seconds are left on the timer, then cast Death Flare. Level 70 makes your rotation a bit more complicated, as you now have access to Demi Bahamut. Our opener looks a bit confusing on paper, but it essentially works out as an opener that includes getting Rune 2 and our Tri-Disaster off, then getting into Dreadworm Trance. This will allow us to instacast Rune 3 and other abilities. After this, Energy Drain to get our Aether Flow stacks, followed by Rune 3, EG Assault 1, 2, Rune 3, and then Aether Pack. This maximizes how much damage Enkindle does. Now Rune 3 are 2 AG Assaults again, then Fester. Now we use Tri-Disaster again. Rune 3 and finally Death Flare, our strongest attack outside our summons. Now we summon Bahamut. Use Rune 4, then Enkindle Bahamut to execute Demi Bahamut's ultimate. Now we apply Fester, then sub a Rune 3 spells and a Rune 4, followed by another Enkindle Bahamut. Now another Energy Drain, Rune 4, Fester, Rune 4, Rune 3, then we apply Miasma 3 and Bio 3 to refresh our dots. At this point, we should have access to our OGCDs, EG Assault 1, 2, Rune 3, then Rune 4, followed by another Tri-Disaster. We basically repeat this, or some combination of these abilities and spells, until we have access to Dreadworm Trance again. An alternative here is to use an Intelligence Potion right before using Aether Pact on the first part of the rotation for the DPS increase of Devotion. If this sounds confusing, I'll admit I'm not the best summoner. I have not been able to perfect the optimal rotations on controller at the moment. However, I will provide links in the video description. What's important to know for both your level 70 and 80 rotations is that in between your trances, you want to weave as many OGCDs as you can. As you get better with the class, you'll be able to increase the number of attacks that you're able to get off between trance timers. The goal is just to make sure you always use Death Flare, as it's an incredibly strong attack and you'll face a major DPS loss without it. Continuing this burst of damage once reaching 80, you will then add your Fire Trance and Demi Phoenix attacks into your rotation, always starting with Tri-Disaster. Here is a full rotation at level 80. As I already said, I can't do this rotation with controller yet, but I've provided it and additional resources in the video description that are sure to help you perfect the class. The best advice I can give you is to consider the Summoner as a class with multiple DPS burst phases. Dreadworm Trance, Bahamut phase, a filler phase until your next trance is ready, and finally a Firebird Trance phase. When fighting lots of enemies, you'll want Gruda out for her AoE abilities, as well as spamming Fester, Pain Flare, and Outburst whenever possible. Then, pummeling them during your trance phases with Akmorn, Revelation, and the various auto attacks that your legendary pets will dish out. For additional help, please check the resources in the video description. As promised, now that we have our rotation sorted, here is how to set up a resurrection macro that incorporates swift cast to quickly raise fallen party members. It's a very simple macro. First, /M error off. This stops that annoying noise when you can't use your macros. Then /AC or action, the name of our action, swift cast in quotes, then left angle bracket, me, right angle bracket to cast on myself. Now /wait 1 to wait 1 second. The next part is what I personally use to set up the order of priority. This ensures that my resurrection is always used on the right party members. First, /, then AC, now resurrection, since that's our raise skill for summoners. Then left angle bracket T for target, right angle bracket. This means if I'm targeting the healer, for instance, it will resurrect them first. If I don't have a target, then the next part of the macro will play out instead. We replace T with the number 2, then 3, and so on for each line. This causes our macro to move down the list and determine if any party member is dead, raising them in order. Because of this, my macro works well in every situation. Now /wait 1 to wait 1 second, and then /P. This is the part of the macro that echoes out that we're using, in this case, resurrection, and whatever fun message we want to write. It's optional, but I choose the command here and left angle bracket T for target, then right angle bracket. This echoes the name of my target in chat. Due to a limitation of the macro, this can lead to some rather hilarious results. Sometimes when I go to resurrect a DPS, I had the boss selected, so now my message says, resurrect Hades. It's quite fun. Choose whatever you want to write here, but know that echoing the command and using a resurrect macro alerts the other party members to what you're doing. To finish the macro, we choose our icon with /mycon, then our ability in quotes. This keeps parity and allows our macro to be recognizable on our hotbars. In closing out this guide, Summoner is probably the hardest class in the game right now, with the most complicated rotations. Making this worse, the DPS loss of being unable to optimally play the class is punishing. Still, I very much enjoy this class, and remember while leveling how excited I was when I could finally summon Demi Bahamut. With time and practice, even this class can be conquered, but it will take a lot more effort than other jobs in Final Fantasy XIV. Sporting amazing and flashy spells, Summoner should be thought of as a DPS burst class. It is a very squishy class, and dying has the serious consequence of screwing up your setup for burst phases. Make sure to use Rune 2 when weaving OGCDs and moving, as Rune 2 is your best mobility spell. Due to its difficult playstyle, even multiple updates over the years haven't stopped the Summoner class from being a trip. It's not a bad class, rather a powerful one, but only when played optimally. At the end of the day, Summoner makes you feel like Bahamut, and who doesn't want that? If you did like this video, please let everybody know, and especially me because it means so much to me, by liking the video. Otherwise, you can always dislike it, but that might make me kind of sad. I really hope you're looking forward to my future guides. I currently have 8 characters at level 80, so hopefully I'll be able to do one per week or so, something along those lines, and I'll have them up for you. Let me know any other things that you want to know or need any help with anything like that in the comments, and I'll see what I can do to help. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell, because if you don't ring it, then you probably won't hear from me very often. Also, if you're playing Final Fantasy XIV, I am the temporary leader of my clan on Diabolos, and it is called Her Eternal Reign if you want to look for it, or just comment or message me or whatever and I'll get to you on that. And as a last thing, please check out my Twitch, which is Miss Finality as well, as I continue to sort of evolve this channel and community around Final Fantasy XIV. Remember, Warrior of Light, the C's part for we alone.